A quick disclaimer. A large part of mxmtoon's persona is her presence on various social media platforms like YouTube or Twitch or the InstaFace Snap tweet, which is all well and good, and obviously I highly encourage you to go follow her on those platforms. Where the problem arises for me is that I don't know how to social media. I barely use Instagram, I don't understand how Twitter works, and I reject TikTok. Just straight up. I'm saying this to keep in mind, just in case if her social media ever becomes relevant in me talking about her music. Who knows, it might have changed my opinion on life online. But depending on how the series goes, I might start paying more attention to that, but for right now, I don't know. But with that said, let's get on with the show. I feel like the idea of you is an overlooked track, not only among the Plum Blossom EP, but also all of mxmtoon's musical portfolio. It predates Feelings Are Fatal, and while not as emotionally captivating as that song, it does come pretty close and excels in other areas like its thematic delivery and narrative songwriting.
I think maybe one of the most misunderstood aspects of screenwriting is theme. The American writer Robert Penn Warren wrote All the King's Men. He said, "The true subject of any story is what a character learns over time." Chances are good, if it's a good movie, something in that movie has spoken to a universal experience. I've located me in the story. That's what resonates.
It also has a more nuanced concept, making it a more interesting song. But I'm getting ahead of myself. While foreshadowed by something and having similar elements in 1-800-DATE ME, the idea of you is the first original mxmtoon single that seriously represents one of the major poignant characteristics that make up mxmtoon's identity, as well as being an iconic trend that is forever associated with her music at this point. That being how mxmtoon writes about conflicting emotions and projects them onto other people. In this song, we could see it manifesting into a narrative where the singer questions their feelings about someone, slowly coming to realize that the crush they have with this person is ultimately a farce that is only perpetuated by their own stubbornness and inability to let go. It calls back to a feeling of loss that I'm sure many have been through for someone they cared about or loved. Not because the person in question is physically gone, but because he or she has changed, or in some cases, never existed in the first place.
I think one of the reasons people like the stuff that I write is because it's kind of unconventional in a sense. I don't necessarily write about topics that are talked about all the time.
Now I'm sure this isn't the first of its kind, and there's probably numerous songs about questioning your love towards somebody. But what gets me is how she presents the song and the topic. Now, of course, she's got that whole raw, heart on your sleeve thing. mxmtoon has never been one to use flowery language in her music or hide behind any kind of metaphors, symbolism, or aphorism. Which is alright. There is a certain power in being blunt, and it's effective here.
I don't really float around the point. I think I get to it pretty fast. I'm not just circling and circling and circling and then never actually getting to the thing in the middle. I don't know, I feel like I'm pretty straightforward with the stuff that I write.
But to really go over what makes this song so amazing, I think it'd be best to show you those elements firsthand. So, take it away, me. Alright, let's break things down. First, I want to talk about the opening progression. It sets the tone for the song quite well, mirroring the journey the singer travels through its pacing, starting out timid but jovially enough before quickly accelerating into a more depressing melody, if I could explain it in any kind of way. And while she does keep this general tempo pattern throughout the entire song, because spoiler alert, the chords just repeat themselves, the opening progression sounds a bit different. Now maybe it's my ears playing tricks on me, but the dichotomy between the two chords sounds a bit more emphasized here. I also like how she played the ukulele in this song, especially when she creates the sharp contrast between the third G chord and the first A minor chord by flicking her wrist upwards and using the extra momentum on her downward strum. A hammer-on effect, as she so eloquently puts it. Her singing is amazing, as always. She was 17 when she made the single, so it adds to the genuine sound of this track. What sets this song apart too is how self-critical it is. It's refreshing to hear, admittedly, and it makes that song more enjoyable and moving. One instance is when she says,
"It's unclear. I used to feel so sure, but I might just be immature. I've been stuck on you for so long that it's hard to tell myself I may be wrong."
mxmtoon has stated this to be the turning point of the song, and her admitting to her naivety ironically illustrates a sign of growth. Additionally, the explanation for her unwillingness to move on is symptomatic of the sunk cost fallacy, which is a psychological effect that states people tend to stick to more irrational behavior when they've invested way too much time into this. These components serve to make the narrative more humble, insightful, and relatable. Self-awareness really does go a long way. Another instance is when she says,
So now I'll try and tell myself my feelings have no meaning.
Now, the official meaning behind this verse is that the singer is trying to reinforce the reality of the situation in order for them to get over it. While I don't disagree with the meaning of it, I could also see a different interpretation. I could also see it as the singer putting themselves down and having their feelings of self-worth damaged because of this epiphany. There's an evident buildup in the previous verses showing that this person held a lot of emotional weight to the singer, and at one point even played a role in the singer's self-esteem. So it would be a logical assumption that the indifference emanating from this person would make the singer feel down on themselves, making a tragic commentary on the devastating consequences of how we often give people power over us even when they aren't responsible enough for it. Either way, these lyrics are really well written, and so is our next example.
And it's not love when there was no chance of you saying I love you too.
That was perfect. We see the singer's disappointment with this person build up, and the climax was so beautiful. It was heartbreaking to hear her finally confront the reality of the situation, and it was written beautifully. A perfect end to a perfect anti-love song. Yeah, let's talk about that. I always find it interesting when mxmtoon is described as an artist that writes a lot of love songs, especially during the pre and Plum Blossom era. I mean, that is true, I guess. Ignoring the ambiguity of subject matter in her music, mxmtoon is an artist that writes a lot of and is most popular for her love songs. However, most of them look at different kinds of love, relationships, and the passion associated with them through unique perspectives, and this is one of them. It might not be the most interesting she's ever written, but it was one of the first, making it an important stepping stone in mxmtoon's abilities as a songwriter. The Idea of You is like an inverse love song. It's about someone realizing the absence of their feelings for someone, and when she says I love you too, in what should be the triumphant victory of the song, it's instead a scathing reminder of the hopelessness in this situation. The Idea of You, as impactful and as thought-provoking as the person she was singing about. Please Don't, another classic from the pre-Blossom era. It's in the same boat as The Idea of You, where it's a transitioning piece before mxmtoon really nailed her style of writing, and as such, it's a lot simpler in concept in comparison to her later work, but it still has an intriguing core concept. It's a plea from the singer to not give up on them. It's a lot more open-ended and abstract than The Idea of You, but just as identifiable nonetheless. I mean, I don't know, have you ever had someone that was extremely important to you and appreciated a great deal? Well, this song covers the full extent of what that feels like. From the confusion stemming from why such a person would want to be with you, to wanting him or her to stay by your side, and wanting to do better for this person.
I don't think that there's a lot of mainstream music that talks about, like, you know, feeling like you're running down your best friend and you're burdening them with all of your issues, or the fact that you don't really think you're in love with somebody, but rather like this idea that you've composed in your head of them.
The subject matter oozes vulnerability just by itself, and just like The Idea of You, it's a very self-critical piece. But where that song uses those rhetoric to tell a sympathetic narrative, Please Don't is a song embodying an expression of anguish, and uses those concepts to deliver a plethora of amazing messages. But to talk about that, though, we're going to have to look at the song itself. Alright, but before we go fully in depth with the song, there are a few technical aspects that I think are worth mentioning. Now, the melody in this song is actually really subdued. It focuses more on mxmtoon's voice and writing, which is kind of why the song doesn't fully work for me, unfortunately. She sounds so lifeless and her voice is so droning. It's like I'm watching Manchester by the Sea.
Why can't you stay? Come on, Patty. I can't beat it. I can't beat it. I'm sorry.
So please don't give up on me. I know I'm not perfect, but I'm trying.
Now don't get me wrong, I do legitimately love Please Don't, and I understand why it's like this. It's supposed to invoke the dreariness that the singer is feeling in life and blah blah blah. But I can only listen to this song maybe once a month, or if I'm really that depressed. That's how draining this song is. To compound this issue, Please Don't is really repetitive. I mean, really.
Please don't, 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 don't, please.
Anyway, the opening is good. It sets the tone for the song really well. One thing I do find interesting about the melody is how naturally it repeats itself. I'm gonna put the strumming pattern up on the screen. I'm sure there are other mxmtoon songs with a naturally looping melody, but I honestly can't think of one right now. But you could see and hear how one cycle succinctly transitions into the next, which kind of adds to the monotony, actually. God, but it's a good idea nonetheless. No. The real beauty of Please Don't is what it has to say. Literally every single verse in the single is great. I just wish they didn't sound so similar. They reinforce a lot of important values like humility, gratitude, and responsibility. The overall message is really cool too. Throughout the song, the singer is pleading with this person to not give up on them or leave, and it comes from a place of honesty and genuine fondness. They use this relationship as inspiration to become better. I've always felt that there's never been enough value assigned to emotional vulnerability. Not only is it tragic and somewhat harmful for someone to repress their emotions, I think it's critical for people to express them. Allowing yourself to open up will enable you to acknowledge yourself for everything that you are, and it's only then can you begin to grow. There's also a lyric here I'd like to highlight. It's when she says,
And I wanna be there for you. I mean, that's the least I can do. I'm just working on myself and I need a little help to make it through.
I like this lyric. It just makes her sound really nice, and there's nothing wrong with asking for help, of course. I appreciate the fact that this track exists at all. And listen, I know I've been really harsh up until now, but I truly do love Please Don't and everything it has to say. And judging from her future music, this won't be the last time she writes about these themes, but that's for another time.
I'm trying.
Hong Kong is an anomaly among mxmtoon's collection of work. It bears little resemblance to most of her previous and subsequent music in terms of subject matter, style, and even caliber. mxmtoon's demeanor here is one full of both conviction and tranquility, and it's reflected in all aspects of this song. The lyrics I'll look into later, but suffice to say, it's extremely rich in detail and eloquently written. You could hear her nostalgia talking about Hong Kong and her family. That nostalgia turned into melancholy when she says how long it's been and that her memories are fading away, and the extent of her bitterness because of how unfair it all is. Sometimes you could even hear it all simultaneously. And in a stroke of brilliance, mxmtoon wrote this song talking at you instead of about or to you. She treats the listener like an emotional conduit, guiding them through what is really her thoughts, but phrasing it as the audience's. It amplifies the sentiments she is projecting and makes you feel what she's experiencing. And the messages themselves? Well, personally, I've never been to Hong Kong, but based off this track, it sounds like a truly wonderful place, and it's a shame that, due to the current political climate, Hong Kong is in a truly dire state. On a deeper level, this song can also speak to the identity of immigrants, regardless of generation. Now, as a second-generation Asian American myself, I will admit that maybe my opinion of Hong Kong is slightly colored by the fact that I can more easily relate to every minute detail of this song. Even the way she describes Hong Kong kind of reminds me of the Philippines. But I don't believe that this song isn't also applicable to individuals who don't fall under those descriptions. I think this song can resonate with anyone who feels like they don't belong. After all, this song just focuses on mxmtoon's own personal life and the peculiarities she had to deal with, and since she's able to filter her emotions through us, that means we're capable of experiencing the same things she did. Okay, so Hong Kong is my favorite song ever. No, not my favorite Plum Blossom Era song, not even my favorite mxmtoon song. I mean, my favorite song ever. I don't even I don't even know where to start. I honestly truly believe that this song is a miracle. This is like, and it's so early in her career too. This is like if instead of going Super Saiyan 2, Gohan in the Cell games went Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan. Unfortunately, I can't really comment on the melody structure or how she plays the song because she's never really released an official tutorial on it, but I will say it sounds amazing and it complements her singing really well. Her singing, amazing. It's so cool how she changes her inflection throughout the song. It adds a lot of emotional depth. And the tune here is so dynamic compared to her previous work. And obviously there's a pattern, but at least we have different sections. Speaking of which, we have actual song structure here with verses and choruses and a bridge, 2 of them actually, and is that cello I hear? I'm genuinely asking because I honestly can't tell the difference between classical string instruments. Speaking of which, this song is written so open-endedly that it can be sung in a variety of different ways. Which brings me to the lyrics themselves. They are so good. Hong Kong sounds so beautiful. The image of red brick, yellow cars, and neon lights, contrasted with the smoggy skies, creates a juxtaposition that portrays Hong Kong as a striking, bright place, brimming with life, and it's reinforced in the bridge. Hong Kong is moving around you, acting independently as if it were its own ecosystem. Additionally, the bridge can be interpreted as the singer being reminded of Hong Kong wherever they go, which transitions well into the chorus. And then the second bridge just ties it all together because now mxmtoon is shaken. The same things that made Hong Kong so incredible is also emblematic of why mxmtoon feels so alone. The third verse is like a culmination of all the emotions featured in this song, and when it's all said and done, there's nothing more to do except hope that maybe one day she'll see them again. Hong Kong is fantastic. Everything about it I absolutely love. Even the art featured with it is amazing. Apparently it's supposed to represent the Cantonese character for home or family. I can't really see it. It's a geniusly written song. I cry every time I hear it. I just love this song. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed, and see you next time.